Good morning. I nearly just missed the start of my own show. How the devil are you doing this fine day? You find me excited and inspired today. One of the great things about being self-employed and self-sufficient is that I can come up with an idea one day and make it happen the next. And one of the great things about having a loyal audience of patrons and viewers is that I can run those ideas past people that I know, that I like, and that I trust as well. Well, we did precisely that yesterday when we sounded you out about a new show format. I'll tell you more about that in the show a bit later in the show. Incidentally, did you see Brad Pitt caused rather a stir last night, arriving at the premiere of his new movie Bullet Train in a skirt? Even for 2022, that was a bold statement. But trust me, it was even bolder when I did it 13 years ago. There you are. That's me. Can you see that very clearly? Let's see if I can scroll it up a bit. Does that make any difference? Yeah, that looks more like it. Just goes to show what I've been saying all along. Where I lead, Brad Pitt follows. Incidentally, if you would like to know precisely why I was wearing a kilt and willies, I will shortly add a link in the chat that explains everything. Honestly, it really does explain everything. And just one other small aside. Did you see that the Sizewell C project has been given the green light? According to a report in Construction Inquiry this morning, the construction industry is promising big savings on the £20 billion project by offering a seamless follow-on from the Hinkley Point C project, safeguarding up to 10,000 jobs and taking advantage of efficiencies in construction. So what will be the actual cost of that £20 billion project, do you reckon? 25 billion? 30? Cynical? Me? Hardly at all. Now, without further ado, let me post the question of the day, roll the intro, and get this show on the road. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I'm your host, Mark Anthony. It's Thursday, the 21st of July, and as that remarkably persistent guy just said, welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, we're going to take an in-depth look at the challenges that still face construction equipment manufacturers as they seek to reduce and eliminate emissions. There will be a barge-mounted crane over the White Cliffs of Dover. That'll make sense too in a second. A resurgent Venieri demonstrates its commitment to the quarry sector. We're going back in time to check out some old-time compaction equipment that will make you thankful for technological progress. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, we also have details of a brand new show format that is coming your way in less than 2 weeks' time. We might also have a sneak preview of something else too, but you'll have to keep watching for that. We'll get to all of that in just a second. But first, let's see who among the rich and the shameless will be celebrating a birthday on this day of days. Happy birthday! Talk amongst yourselves. I need to add a thing in the chat. There we are. That's it. Done. Now you know why I was wearing a kilt. It's many happy returns to that most manly of authors, Ernest Hemingway, and to Dad's Army actor, Bill Pertwee. Happy birthday also to dance star John Lowe, singer and songwriter Cat Stevens, and to the sadly dear departed actor and comedian Robin Williams. To Faith No More, Big Jim Martin, golfer Paul Casey, actor Josh Hartnett, and to singer Paloma Faith. Many happy returns to them, one and all. We hear a lot here on this show about a rosy, emissions-free utopia in which excavators and wheel loaders will silently create the buildings and infrastructure of the future without so much as a puff of black smoke. But that future remains a long way off, and in a new video from hydraulics giant Danfoss, the scale of the challenge facing equipment manufacturers is given a much-needed reality check.
Value chain. Global construction is responsible for approximately 25% of global emissions, with that figure being 13% purely in Europe. Mobile machinery in particular and stationary industrial equipment alone produce 400 megatons of CO2 per year. As it stands, energy consumption represents the largest part of the carbon footprint from fuel-based machinery, such as excavators and wheel loaders, which are amongst the most energy-intensive pieces of construction equipment you'll see. If left unaddressed, the construction industry's carbon emissions are expected to increase over the next coming decades as we seek to address the needs of a growing population, urbanisation and the rapid growth of cities. So much so, it's actually estimated that in the next 40 years, over 230 billion square foot of construction sites will take place, the equivalent of a new city the size of Paris every single week. With countries, cities and companies setting targets for reaching net zero by 2050 or sooner, the demand for electric and hybrid construction machinery, among other construction solutions, is growing. Let's explore how governments, municipalities, companies can address these issues and how to take advantage of these opportunities.
Thank you.
If we can start with just a few comments on the construction industry and why you feel it may have been slower than some to adopt decarbonisation.
Yeah, sure. The construction industry itself is a very particular case because the equipment that usually are big, large, they require a big amount of energy. Today they are powered by diesel in general, and they're quite inefficient as equipment, but that's the best we could do so far in the years. Transforming those machinery into electric or zero emission is extremely complex because it requires a big amount of energy, which means also enormous batteries in a way. So you need to work in step, and first you need to make it super efficient, which then can allow you to use maybe smaller batteries, and also requires a very large investment, both from the producer of the machine, because to develop the vehicles, but also from the buyer of those machines, because those machines are going to be more expensive, as a matter of fact. It is a complex problem. In some way, it is more complex than the cars that we see every day, or motorbikes and so on. It's a very big equipment.
So in terms of construction equipment, there are challenges, both technology, which we talked about, but also around scaling.
As a matter of fact, when you buy a diesel full construction machine, you buy the machine and that's it. But you don't pay the cost of the environment, the cost of what you create in the environment. And that's kind of an unfair competition with the electric machine, which actually really has, if they have zero impact, it's zero impact at the end. Really, is not a polluting and so on. So that's one point that often is miswatched, is not considered. But yes, there are technology challenge, and yet those equipment at the end. They are hard to make, and they need to make that at scale. And it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation. If we would have large volumes or a big demand of those like electric excavator, those large machinery and so on, which are the one more polluting, then of course the scaling will be much faster, and then we would have more in the market, and probably the cost will be lower. Still higher than the normal full combustion, but still much lower than today. So at the moment we are in this transition. And we see a increased demand for sure. The demand is growing a lot, but still the number of real electric vehicles or electric equipment compared to the number of diesel fuel is still minimal, especially on those super large machines. Excavator is probably the most polluting large equipment in the world. Is also one of the most used equipment in the world. Is everywhere globally. Is the one that you use to dig anything. Basically, when you have a construction site, there are more excavators than anything, any other machinery. If we turn those into electric, there will be a massive benefit. Actually, we can say if we would just turn into electric excavator, which are in the city, only the one in the city, not the one making highways and so on, but the one in the cities, there would be already a huge benefit for the entire world, both in terms of emission and CO2. I think if you want to make a step change, you need a regulation. So you need somebody to say, yes, in this area, in this environment, you cannot run with high emission equipment.
Talk about then sunk costs, because as you say, this equipment is hugely expensive, and many contractors or organisations would have already purchased and invested in these equipments. So how is it to perhaps retrofit some of these things, and is that something which you see as again an early step before new machinery is perhaps scaling? Yes,
it is possible. I think this is a market that will come in the future. This transforming existing like excavator or wheel loader into electric, because at the end those equipment are on the market, are already on the fields, are available. They are extremely expensive, If you can reconvert it into electric, of course, really it will be a way to reuse something you already have, and in a way, really, you will have your circular economy.
Yeah.
I think to have this on a large scale, again, has to be driven by regulation, because at the moment you put more regulation in certain areas and so on, and you need those equipment to be electric. Yeah. You will have a number of new equipment, but also you will have equipment you will have companies that start as a job to reconvert those kind of equipment.
Yeah.
And yes, you did hear that right. He did say that the global construction industry is creating the equivalent of a new Paris every week. Now, that is just a clip from a full 37-minute video that goes even further into the subject. If you'd like to watch that, I have just posted a link in the chat. Now, it's interesting that a hydraulics company that is stating the reality of the challenge ahead, but Danfoss is already playing its part in the road to the net zero race, as you're about to see.
You know, it does have endless possibilities, and I feel like the world should take advantage of it.
This is not just an incremental improvement, it truly is the next chapter of hydraulics. This is digital hydraulics for a digital age.
Whether the focus is on zero emissions or lower emissions, the unique aspect of digital displacement is it allows for less consumption of whether it's fossil fuels or less consumption of batteries because of its efficiencies. We have to be durable. It's non-negotiable.
Productivity will almost always sell a machine. Energy efficiency is very important in some markets like electrification, but productivity when you're out in the construction site or out in the field are the things that really, really drive people to want to purchase one machine over another.
We can simply swap the pump from a standard excavator for a digital displacement pump, and that gives us great fuel savings and it gives us great productivity benefits. But we can do more than that. We can pave the way for amazing new excavator systems, perhaps recovering energy or enabling superior control. DDP is an enabler for the future excavator systems.
Sorry about that. Something going on in the background there. Given the current price of diesel and the fact that we've recently lost our red diesel subsidy, the need to conserve fuel is surely now at the stage where we need to work on by any means necessary. And if that means switching to digital hydraulics, then maybe that conversion is a small price to pay. Now, there's an ongoing chat going on, which is actually related to yesterday's show. John Fitzmaurice, good morning, Mark. Trust all is well. Watched your show yesterday, and yes, I would be tutting at the excavator fire. It's a common sight we see these days, especially when machines are working hard, and the current weather does not help. Which is countered by Mick Norton, who says, John Fitzmaurice, warm weather is not causing excavator fires. Doesn't help, and also it certainly doesn't help the sites upon which these machines are working, particularly if you're working out in what was described regularly on yesterday's news as tinderbox conditions. Let's have a look. We'll come back to all of that in just a second. So let me get the show back on the road. I shouldn't get myself so distracted. Here we go. It must be more than a year since I headed down to the port of Dover to meet the team at DDS Demolition. They were working on an impressive project that included a team of divers and involved the use of the largest sheer leg barge-mounted crane in Europe. Now, this being a live port, security was phenomenally tight, and so I wasn't able to film the demolition, but thankfully the team at DDS did manage to capture the action, as you're about to see. But before I hit the play button, I just wanted to say this. There is a temptation, I think, to see demolition as a destructive practice, a wham bam thank you ma'am business. What you're about to see serves as a great reminder that demolition is an engineering discipline that requires planning, problem solving, and a great deal of precision. Take a look at this.
So DDS have worked with the Port of Dover for about 14 years. We've done 4 or 5 projects together successfully prior to coming into contract on this one. The works at Dover are very complex and technically challenging. I mean, the landside works, whilst it has its challenges, it isn't really the centre focus of what is technical. It is the ED1 berth is where the technicalities come into play.
There was different challenges, different complexities to the actual whole scheme of it, from the fact that we had standard sort of steel frame structures in terms of the cargo sheds that we had, which was quite straightforward, and of course then that spans into ED1 and the marine work, which we've been involved in taking out berths before, just as the location of this one and the logistics working between the live port and the other berths that were involved, which made it quite a challenge.
So the Port of Dover is a tightly controlled environment. They've got really strict health and safety requirements. They work to the highest standard. So the heavy goods vehicle that come into site have to be accompanied by a police car, which would escort them all the way through the site to our project working area. All of this has to be booked in well in advance. Inside the cargo terminal sheds, there was an electrical substation which fed numerous assets within the port. It was key for us to protect that whilst the works progressed. So we designed a crash deck system and a ranch board scaffold which housed around the electrical substation, which protected it for the duration of the works. ED1 is a roll and roll off ramp that is used to get vehicles onto the back of ferries. When we decommissioned ED1, we needed some space on the land to place the materials that we were cutting out of it. Obviously they're coming out in really big sections, so in order for us to do that we decided to deal with the Dover cargo terminal sheds first. The idea being that we could get rid of the sheds, clear ourselves a big space on land, we could leave the slab and foundations here, which would be the hard stone in which we'd work from. Before even taking ED1 out of the sea, we had months of prep work to do with the divers. I mean, the structure itself was floated into position and sunk. That's how it was moved around. So the concern was for us, as we took the sand out of the ballast tanks, that the structure might be tempted to refloat itself, or at least become unstable. So as we was pumping the sand out, we was pumping water back in at the same rate. This made sure that the structure wasn't buoyant in any way. So our method was to use a Bell 100 pump, which we lowered into the ballast tanks to get rid of the ballast. And we only used the divers to basically cut holes in the side of the tank. This allowed the water to drain when we lifted it, and also to weld some angle brackets on the side, which stopped high pressure points on the cable when we did the lift as well. When the barge comes, this is an extremely bit of kit. It's probably the most expensive bit of plant that we've ever hired in over 30 years since our inception. What we didn't want to get was days and days of this barge sat idle while we were separating the separate parts of the structure that we were lifting off.
Once we'd completed the demolition of the Dover cargo terminals, that gave us enough room to undertake the lifting sequence of the ED1. Now, we undertook out with a shear leg, the largest shear leg in Europe from the Netherlands. So we lifted the seaward ramp and the finger flaps first, cut and lifted them off. Then we had to cut and lift the winch housing, the porthole legs, into another section. And then we undertook the main spanning deck, which was 50 metres long, 22 metres wide. Hence you can see the amount of room we had to have to lay these sections down. Once they had been lifted, we then undertook the lift of the submerged tank system, what was obviously beneath the waterline. Final works we had to do once the tank system had been lifted was break out the concrete pads what were on the seabed. Now, we had to break these out because the MMO licence states that the land has to be returned in its natural state. So these concrete pads had to be removed from the seabed. We decided to employ the services of the largest long reach in England. We sighted him on a jackleg barge We broke the pads with the breaker on the seabed, and then we dredged them and loaded them onto land. Well, obviously there was the processing side of things to be undertaken.
Hats off to DDS Demolition, as Al Grierson has just said. Impressive undertaking. I honestly think if that's not a contender when the World Demolition Awards roll around, I will eat my heart out. I mean, I won't, obviously, but you get the idea. Incidentally, that is the first part of a two-part film that captures that challenging demolition project, and we're going to bring you the second part in tomorrow's show. It's funny, isn't it? Up until a month or two ago, I believed that the Venieri brand was something from my past, a fond memory to look back upon through teary eyes. But just recently, the Venieri name has been back where it belongs, front and centre. We have brought you several glimpses of what the Venieri machines can do, and here they are in a brand new video demonstrating their prowess in the field of quarrying. It really is terrific to see Venieri resurgent once again.
Axoft and Svantec are your high-end partners for noise, vibration, dust and air quality systems, sensors and software. To find out more, visit axoft.co.uk or call 01234 639 550.
Right, hang on a second. I need to, excuse me, I need to set the mood just a little. Let's put that on. Let's put that on. And let me put this on. Yes, that's much better. You might recall that on yesterday's show, I suggested that we might trial a new show format called The Breakfast Show After Dark. That's what it looks like. Well, the feedback was universally positive. Yeah, Sorry, I thought something had gone wrong there. The feedback was universally positive, and we have decided, what the hell, we'll do what we always do. We'll just press ahead and we'll worry about the consequences afterwards. As I'm keen to get an episode in the can before we all head off on our holidays, our pilot show will air at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, the 2nd of August. And we already have several topics in the can, although I may be adding one as a result of an offline chat with Mick Norton this morning. These are the topics that we've got so far. Competence cards. Do we have too many, and are they too expensive? The obvious answer is yes, but I'm sure we can do more with that. Are equipment manufacturers sufficiently transparent over fuel consumption, emissions, and performance levels? And afraid to speak up is a climate of fear in demolition and construction, forcing workers to suffer in silence. If you have any other topics you'd like to add, please feel free to let us have them. Either let us know in advance, which will allow us to do a bit more prep work, or you can let us know during the show. And if you'd like to join us on the show as a guest, you can do that too, assuming you have a smart device or a computer with a webcam and a microphone. Now, just on that subject, I'm going to tell you what the other subject that was kicking around. Mick Norton has sent me something today. Mark, frightening statistic in today's Construction Inquirer, where the Future Innovation Group is trying to fathom why the younger generation are not endeared to the construction industry as a career. They claim that only 25% of the 40,000 people starting construction qualifications complete the process, showing a 75% drop-off rate. Discuss. Let's discuss. I may well factor that one in. Now, let me get rid of the funky music in the background. Let me switch back to that. Let me switch back to that because I have something else. So don't forget that 7 p.m. Out on the 2nd of August. Now, that is not the only new thing on the horizon here on the Breakfast Show. You will recall that for almost 2 months prior to the show, excuse me, prior to the show, we hosted a regular Hillhead highlight slot. Now, hang on a minute. Something's gone horribly wrong here. Yeah, we had a regular Hillhead highlights slot. Well, with the massive Balmer show now looming large on the horizon, we are about to do the same again. Only this time, we are doing it with a show sponsor. That's right. Diggerguard have agreed to be the section sponsor of our brand new Road to Balmer slot, which will be starting very, very soon. We're delighted to have them on board, obviously, and we're extremely grateful that they've chosen to support this new element of the show. So keep watching out for our Road to Balmer slot. And while you're about it, go and check out Diggerguard. I've just posted a link to their website in the chat.
The Miller GT series heralds a new era of unrivaled power and cutting-edge intelligent coupler technology, increasing job site safety, machine versatility, and productivity. It's the added versatility that you need at the value you can afford. To find out more, visit millergroundbreaking.com.
Now, before we get further down the line, let me throw this up on the screen because I can barely read it. Bear with me 1 second. Can you help Ross Costain Construction Plant Pulse survey for PhD submission? Ross Walker is a PhD research engineer at Costain. He's carrying out a survey of plant professionals for his PhD research paper. Can you spare 5 minutes of your time and complete the survey, please? The link is at the end of this link. Go over to the CEA website, or better still, if you are on Facebook at the moment, you should be able to copy that down. If you are in the plant trade and you'd like to give a leg up to somebody doing their PhD, then please do so. Thanks for sharing that one, Lou. Now, do you remember the days when black smoke was a sign that a machine was working rather than a cause for concern? The days before we discovered the perils of hand-arm vibration. Days when compaction meant huge ground-pounding machines and when men didn't so much operate them as cling on for grim death. Well, here is a very quick reminder of the good old days. That is just a little bit of a much longer film from a Swiss vintage plant festival in which they recreated an oldie worldy construction site very recently. It really is worth a viewing. If you'd like to check that out, they've got some old compaction equipment, some old loaders as well. You can check that out using the link in the chat.
Sorry to interrupt the guy with the funny glasses, but if you're enjoying this video, please hit the like button as it helps our channel. Or better still, share this video with a friend or a colleague. Thank you. Right, back to Beardy.
Right, that pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's very disjointed show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like into the chat to see what you're all saying today. If you can't stick around for that, then please stay safe, look after yourself, your family, your friends and your colleagues. Continue to stay hydrated, people, because it's still warm out there. Have a great day and thanks for watching. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I'll see you on the other side of this.